Dillon Gabriel was supposed to be the steady hand guiding the Browns through a turbulent season. Instead, his risk-averse play has become symbolic of the team's broader stagnation. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders, a backup on the depth chart, has become the face of momentum in Cleveland, not for what he's done on the field, but for what he did off it.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
His viral car giveaway to his struggling family wasn't just a kind gesture. It revealed the kind of leader fans and players want at the heart of this team. As the city embraces Sanders, the spotlight has turned harshly toward a coaching staff that continues to ignore what seems obvious. The quarterback with fire and fearlessness isn't the one starting. There's a disconnect brewing inside the organization, and Kevin Stefanski can't ignore it much longer. The community has already made its choice, and the locker room may not be far behind. Sanders has shown he can ignite more than social media. His preseason command, energy, and leadership were real. If the Browns are going to salvage the season, it starts with breaking routine and embracing the fire that Sanders brings. The next 2 games may not just decide the standings. They may define this era of Browns football. You're a Cleveland Browns fan. You've watched this team crawl, scratch, and stumble through yet another disappointing season. The offense? Stagnant. The quarterback play? Cautious to a fault. And after getting absolutely humbled by the Pittsburgh Steelers, again, you're wondering if this season is already circling the drain. But then, Shedeur Sanders goes viral. Not for a game-winning touchdown. Not for a stat-breaking performance. No, Shedeur, your backup quarterback, just gave away a car to a family in need. Out of his own pocket. No sponsor campaign, no press stunt. Just a genuinely kind, selfless act that instantly won over the Cleveland community. And suddenly, the spotlight isn't on Dillon Gabriel or even head coach Kevin Stefanski. It's burning straight down on the one guy who isn't playing, and everyone's asking the same thing. Why the hell isn't Shedeur Sanders starting? Let's back up for a second. The Browns' offense is flatlining. Dillon Gabriel, who was handed the reins to the offense, has been playing like he's allergic to risk. Every check down, every hesitation. It's like watching a quarterback trying not to lose rather than trying to win. There's no spark, no electricity, no aggression. Just conservative play calling and empty drives. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders is standing on the sideline, helmet on, watching the chaos unfold like an understudy who knows the lead actor is bombing but isn't allowed to go on stage. And here's where it gets messy for Stefanski. In the preseason, when the stakes were low and the playbook was open, Shedeur balled out. He pushed the ball downfield. He hit seam routes. He made guys like Jerry Jeudy look relevant again. The offense had life. It had tempo. It looked like a team that could actually compete in the AFC. Fast forward to now, that dynamic offense is gone. We're back to 3-and-outs and wasted drives. And the coaching staff's unwillingness to shake things up is starting to look like more than just a tactical decision. It's looking like pride. Stefanski seems dug in. Gabriel is his guy. And giving Shedeur a shot would mean admitting that maybe, just maybe, he made the wrong call. But the problem is, Cleveland doesn't have time for a stubborn coach playing favorites. Not when the locker room is restless. Not when fans are calling for change. And definitely not when Shedeur Sanders just proved he has more leadership off the field than some guys have on it. That car giveaway wasn't just a good deed, it was a statement. It told the entire city, I care. I see you. I'm one of you. And in a town like Cleveland, where football is personal and loyalty is everything, that kind of gesture hits hard. You can't coach that kind of connection. You can't scheme your way into community trust. Shedeur earned it. And yet, he's still holding a clipboard. Sean King, a former NFL quarterback, recently pointed out that Shedeur reminds him of Jameis Winston, not in arm strength, but in mentality. That fearless, gunslinger attitude that isn't afraid to take chances and light a spark. And while Winston had his ups and downs, that edge, that mentality, is exactly what this Browns offense is missing. Look, nobody's saying Shedeur is a guaranteed savior. But what he does offer is something this team desperately needs: energy, confidence, and the willingness to go for broke. Right now, Dillon Gabriel is playing it too safe. He's not pushing the envelope, and the offense is reflecting that with every stalled drive. Let's talk brass tacks. The next 2 games are against the Dolphins and Patriots. Winnable? But only if you shake the tree. Only if you roll the dice. Because at this point, continuing down the same path with Gabriel is the definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting different results. And that brings us back to Stefanski. The guy is already on thin ice. Fans are fed up. The owner is laser-focused on a shiny new stadium, which only ups the pressure to deliver results now. You think that billionaire is going to sit back and watch this team stumble into irrelevance while everyone's hyped about new seats and suites? Not a chance. The reality is, Stefanski's reluctance to start Shedeur Sanders could go down as one of those career-defining missteps. The longer he waits, the louder the calls for change get. And the more people start wondering if pride is standing in the way of progress. Even worse? You're wasting a guy with franchise quarterback energy sitting on your bench. Shedeur isn't just marketable, he's magnetic. His leadership, his attitude, his connection to the community, these are the intangibles teams pray for. He's already winning the city without even taking a snap. What happens when he actually gets to play? And we know it's not just about off-field vibes. On the field, Sanders already showed in preseason that he's got the juice. He ran an offense that attacked defenses, kept defenses honest, and made receivers relevant again. There was motion, rhythm, and confidence. That wasn't a fluke, it was a preview. The longer Stefanski waits, the more it looks like ego is calling the plays. And history? It's not kind to coaches who can't read the room. Remember when Drew Bledsoe went down and Belichick rolled the dice on a 6th-round pick named Tom Brady? That wasn't luck, that was bold coaching. That was a man who knew when it was time to adapt. This is one of those moments. The Browns are at a crossroads. Stick with Gabriel and risk spiraling into a forgettable season? Or bet on Sanders, inject life into this team, and maybe, just maybe, shift the momentum. The fans are ready. The locker room is watching. The community is behind him. And let's be honest, this isn't just about stats or highlights. It's about a quarterback who stepped up when it mattered. Not just with words, but with actions. Giving away that car wasn't performative. It wasn't for likes or retweets. It was a move that said, I want to be a leader. I want to carry this city. And people felt that. Shedeur Sanders may be listed as a backup, but in the eyes of many, he's already leading this team. The only question is whether Kevin Stefanski is brave enough to give him the keys. So yeah, it's instant regret. Regret that the quarterback who's winning hearts isn't being given a chance to win games. Regret that a bold opportunity is being passed up for the safety of the status quo. And regret that, if this season keeps slipping, Stefanski might find himself out of a job, remembered not for the games he won, but the risks he refused to take. Let's not sugarcoat it. This is a make-or-break moment. Start Shedeur and you might just ignite something. Stick with Gabriel, and the Browns might continue their slow descent into irrelevance while a potential franchise quarterback warms the bench. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, and drop your take in the comments. Should Stefanski finally hand the reins to Shedeur? Or is the team doomed to keep playing scared while their spark waits on the sideline? We'll be watching. Let's talk about what's really at stake here. It's not just the Dolphins and Patriots games. It's the entire direction of this franchise. Because if you can't pull the trigger on a change when your offense is this lifeless, when your fans are this disillusioned, and when your backup is literally going viral for being the leader you wish your starter was, then what are we even doing? Shedeur Sanders has become a walking contradiction to the Browns' current identity. He's bold, Stefanski is playing it safe. He's decisive, Gabriel is hesitant. He's connecting with the community, while the team is disconnecting from the fans. And all of this is happening while Cleveland is supposed to be entering a new era. Big investments, stadium talk, playoff expectations. So why are we stuck in neutral? Let's not pretend like Dillon Gabriel is the problem either. He's a symptom. The guy's clearly trying to do what the coaches ask. Protect the ball, manage the game, avoid mistakes. But that's not going to cut it. The Browns aren't built to win 13-10 slugfests every week. And right now, they're losing those anyway. You want to see a frustrated locker room? Look no further than the body language on the sideline. Receivers jogging off the field shaking their heads. Defensive guys staring blankly into the distance after yet another 3-and-out. That's not just losing, that's losing hope. And nothing poisons a season faster. Meanwhile, Shedeur's not just waiting, he's building. Building goodwill with fans. Building chemistry with teammates behind the scenes. Building a case that, at this point, is impossible to ignore. And here's the wild part. He's doing everything right. He hasn't called out the coaching staff. He hasn't stirred the pot publicly. He's not lobbying for the job in interviews. He's letting his actions speak louder, and they are deafening. That car giveaway? It's not just a feel-good story. It's a direct challenge to the narrative that he's not ready. Because you don't see many backups acting like franchise quarterbacks when the cameras aren't even supposed to be rolling. You don't see many guys with 0 guaranteed snaps this season stepping up to lead in such a visible, authentic way. So now we've got a tale of 2 quarterbacks. One is playing like a temp filling in, hoping not to mess up the office coffee order. The other is acting like the CEO before he's even been promoted. And somehow, Stefanski still thinks it's a debate? Let's be clear, the NFL rewards boldness. The teams that play not to lose usually do. The teams that gamble, that innovate, that take the leap when it's uncomfortable, those are the teams that make noise in December. And that's what this is about. Because if the Browns lose the next 2 games, the season is cooked. At that point, what's left? Another round of post-game pressers filled with vague optimism and empty promises? More fourth quarters where the defense plays their hearts out, only to watch the offense sputter out like a candle in the wind? Or you could flip the script. Put Sanders in. Open up the playbook. Give the team a jolt. Not a miracle, not a franchise reboot, but a chance. A chance to find out if he's the real deal before the season is too far gone. And if he's not? Fine. At least you tried. At least you didn't go down clinging to a quarterback who was never built to carry this offense in the first place. Because here's the thing no one wants to admit. Dillon Gabriel is holding this team hostage. Not maliciously, not deliberately, but functionally. He's the quarterback version of a safety blanket. Comfortable, predictable, familiar. But sometimes, comfort is the enemy of growth. And Shedeur? He's not comfortable. He's not predictable. But he is confident. And right now, that's the ingredient this team is missing more than anything else. Look back at every Browns drive in the past few weeks. How many times have you found yourself yelling at the screen? Take the shot. Throw it. Why are we punting again? That isn't just frustration, that's recognition. You know this offense could be better. You know there's more talent on the field than what's being used. And you know that if someone doesn't pull the plug soon, the whole operation's going dark. But maybe the most frustrating part of all this is Stefanski's silence. The press conferences are full of generic coach speak. We're evaluating everything. We have confidence in Dillon. We believe in the process. But at what point does the process become the problem? Because sticking with a quarterback who plays not to lose is actively losing you games. Sticking with a system that limits your weapons is wasting talent. And sticking with the status quo when the house is on fire? That's not loyalty. That's negligence. Let's not forget what city this is. Cleveland doesn't do fake. They don't do passive. This is a fan base that shows up through snow, through losing seasons, through every cursed twist in franchise history. All they want is a team that fights back. A team that reflects their passion. A quarterback who leads with heart. Right now, Shedeur Sanders is the only one giving them that. So yeah, the car giveaway matters. Not because it makes him a good person, although it does, but because it makes him a real leader. That kind of generosity doesn't just warm hearts, it builds trust. And in football, trust is everything. You think that family he helped cares whether he's QB1? Nope. They care that he showed up, that he listened, that he gave a damn. And you better believe that kind of story spreads in the locker room. Guys want to play for someone like that. Coaches should want to coach someone like that. And fans? Fans desperately want to believe in someone like that. But they can't if he never takes the field. So what happens next? If Stefanski waits too long, the window might slam shut. The next 2 games are winnable, but only if the offense finally wakes up. If the Browns drop both, the season's essentially over. At that point, starting Sanders becomes less about revival and more about damage control. But if he starts now, there's still a chance to flip the narrative. A spark, a surge, a possible redemption arc. Not just for Shedeur, but for Stefanski too. Because here's the twist in all this. He still has time to be the coach who made the gutsy call. He still has a shot to be the one who took the risk, empowered the locker room, and turned a flatlining season into a second-half surge. But that window is closing. And if he misses it, he won't just be remembered as the guy who stuck with the wrong quarterback. He'll be remembered as the guy who benched the right one, while the whole world watched. So if you're Kevin Stefanski, the clock isn't just ticking, it's screaming. You can either keep your seat warm with Gabriel or light a fire with Sanders. But standing still? That's no longer an option. Let's not kid ourselves. This is no longer a quarterback competition. This is a full-blown referendum on Kevin Stefanski's leadership. Because as each game passes and the losses pile up, the silence becomes deafening. No changes, no spark, no fire. Just another week of trust the process, while the entire stadium slowly turns on him. And here's the bitter truth. It's not just about wins and losses anymore. It's about willpower. It's about nerve. It's about whether the man in charge has the guts to stop the bleeding before the whole locker room gives up. And you can feel it, something is cracking. The players might not say it out loud, but body language doesn't lie. There's a difference between a struggling team and a team that's checked out. When your offense is averaging fewer highlights than a preseason Instagram reel and your quarterback looks like he's throwing with the parking brake on, it doesn't take a genius to figure out morale is circling the drain. Now add in Shedeur Sanders, cool, composed, and now beloved for doing something that has nothing to do with football. Because let's be real, giving a car to a family in need? That's not just a headline, that's a moment. That's a player building a legacy before he's even taken a real NFL snap. And it matters. People talk all day about X's and O's, arm strength, pocket presence, whatever. But culture? That's what wins long-term. And in one act of kindness, Shedeur showed he already understands the city better than some guys who've been here for years. Cleveland is tired of empty slogans. Tired of being told to be patient. Tired of coaches who protect the status quo while the scoreboard screams otherwise. And now, staring down the barrel of another wasted season, there's finally something, or someone, worth believing in. But he's still on the sideline. Let that sink in. The guy who's become a symbol of heart and leadership and hope for the fan base is still second string. Still waiting for someone else to fail badly enough to earn a shot. At what point does it just become insulting? This isn't college ball. This isn't a scholarship decision. This is the NFL. And in the NFL, if you don't adapt, you disappear. So how long does Kevin Stefanski want to keep gambling his reputation on a quarterback who's barely keeping the offense upright? Every week that goes by without a quarterback switches another brick in the wall between this coaching staff and the fans. Because at this point, it's not just about bad football, it's about ignoring the obvious. And the obvious is staring us all in the face. Dillon Gabriel is not the guy. Maybe in another system, maybe with a different team, maybe down the road. But right now, in this offense, with these weapons, he's not delivering. He's checking down, holding back, playing it safe, and it's killing this team. Meanwhile, Shedeur wants the moment. And that matters. He's got the gunslinger mentality. Not reckless, but confident, hungry, aggressive. The kind of quarterback who makes the defense nervous. Not because of his resume, but because you don't know what he's going to do next. That unpredictability is power. And Cleveland hasn't had that in a long time. Now here comes the kicker. The Browns' next 2 games? Against the Dolphins and the Patriots. 2 teams that are beatable. But not if you keep running the same risk-averse game plan. Not if you keep pretending that 13 points a game is going to cut it in the AFC. And definitely not if your play caller refuses to let go of a quarterback who's clearly out of sync with the rest of the offense. So what's the plan here? Ride it out? Hope Dillon Gabriel suddenly morphs into a dynamic playmaker in Week 8? That's not strategy, that's denial. This is the exact kind of moment that separates the good coaches from the ones who get replaced mid-season. Bold moves in high-pressure moments. Trusting your instincts. Reading the room. And right now, the room is screaming for change. Even ownership is watching closely. You don't greenlight a massive stadium project and then sit back while your team puts up 6-point halves and boos echo through a half-filled stadium. That kind of embarrassment doesn't sell luxury boxes. That doesn't hype the future. That screams wasted potential. You think they're not tracking this? You think ownership isn't starting to wonder whether this staff has the backbone to make the hard calls? They absolutely are. Because when a quarterback becomes a rallying cry before he even starts, that's not a fluke, that's energy. That's momentum. And if you're smart, you don't let that go to waste. The Browns don't need another clipboard quarterback managing the game into a loss. They need a shot of adrenaline. Someone who's not afraid to stretch the field, to go for broke, to light a fire in the huddle. And based on everything we've seen, Shedeur Sanders is ready to be that guy. Not because he's perfect, but because he wants it. And right now, wanta might be more important than anything else. Because the worst thing you can do is nothing. The worst move is no move. Especially when every loss chips away at belief, at chemistry, at identity. This isn't just a personnel decision, it's a culture decision. Who do you want leading this team? The guy who plays scared, or the guy who gives a damn? Time's up, Stefanski. The pressure's on. The fans are watching. The locker room's restless. And Shedeur's moment isn't just knocking, it's practically kicking the damn door down. So we'll leave you with this. Start Sanders, and you give this team a reason to believe again. You inject hope, urgency, and swagger back into a franchise that desperately needs all three. Or stay the course, keep playing it safe, and watch the season drift away like smoke in the cold Cleveland air. It's your move, coach. If you made it this far, you already know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe for more chaos, and let us know in the comments, should Stefanski make the switch, or has this team already missed its shot? We'll be here for the fallout.